All right, good morning. It's Thursday, and here is our science for today. So just to recap what we looked at yesterday, we looked at the biosphere, we looked at our ecosystems, how plants and animals and living things are all connected for their survival. And we've started by looking at some plants and what they need to grow. We've looked at animals, specifically we looked at the hawk and how they find their food and where they become part of an ecosystem. And then we started to look at things that decompose, and we looked at the leaves. Now we're looking at the worms and what their role is in that decomposing within an ecosystem. And yesterday you looked at the worm and you looked at the worm casting, so the worm poop. And I asked you to look at that and to see, think, and wonder. So shout out to a lot of students, to be honest with you, some amazing thinking. Johnny L, I have your paper up in front of me for all of us to just kind of look at because I was really impressed with some of your thinking. I'm looking and I asked you to see what kinds of things you're seeing. And Johnny L talked about the worm isn't just pink, there's brown on it. The worm has a bump on the upper part of its body. The worm poop looks like it's more of some type of fungus. The worm's head is pointy. The worm's poop has cracks in it. Those are really good just observations. It looks like there's, more than one sort of pile. It's interesting. And that was a really good observations. The one thing I might even just say, it looks like there are segments in the worm. So it's not just one solid piece. It looks like there are different compartments in that worm that we saw. And those segments are kind of what it uses to propel itself forward. Think. Johnny O says, I think it took more than one worm to make that pile of poop. I think worms lived underground is because it's too bright, and when it rained, the aquifer took them out. So again, that question was, why did the worms come out of the ground when it rained? I loved that he used that word aquifer. Nice job. And I love that he's thinking about the ground, and typically when it's thinking about the light, and he's thinking about when it's raining, it's not typically very bright out. The sun is being covered by the clouds, and it is typically a dark environment. I know today it seems kind of dark and dreary as it's pouring outside. So definitely, I love that he's thinking about that light. And wondering, why is the upper part of the worm pink and brown? I loved that. That is a good wondering. Why is that? I'm wondering what that little almost Band-Aid looks like. I'm wondering, what does the worm start that size? Does it grow by adding segments? How does it grow by adding segments at the end or in the middle? And I loved he was talking about, do worms need oxygen because they live underground? Oh my gosh, what a great thought. We all know that we need oxygen and plants need carbon dioxide. So what does the worm need? I love those thinkings. So lots and lots of thinkings. Thinking about those castings a little bit more, what do you think about those castings? Do you think those are things that are good or bad? Should we be looking at that worm poop as a positive or a negative? Does that help us or in our environment, or is it something that we're not, that shouldn't be there? It is probably bad for us. So Jenny, a really nice job with your thinkings today. And I had a lot of other really good thinkings from some students. I just wanted to pull up one. We really want to start thinking about, what does the worm do in our ecosystem? Are they important? And how do they help us break down things in our environment? So today we're going to look at a little bit of Mystery Doug, look at a little activity, and then we're going to go back and put some pieces together. So I'm going to switch my screen here.
You can learn a lot by watching closely, and you can experiment by changing one thing at a time. Here's just one example of an experiment we designed. We wanted to figure out, what exactly do worms like to eat? I mean, do they actually eat dirt, or do they eat stuff that's in the dirt? We decided to give worms a choice between dirt with no dead stuff in it and dirt with dead stuff in it. Now, to create a fair test, we made a worm bin out of a plastic box. about other things that might affect what the worms did, like light and dampness, how wet it was in there. So we made sure the whole box was damp, and we decided we would put it in the dark. Then we put 100 earthworms in the middle of the box and waited for 2 full days for the worms to move in the box and make their choices. Then we counted the worms in each.
Okay, so how many of the worms do you think were in the side that had the matter, the sort of the things for it to eat, the leaves and things that need to be broken down, or just the plain dirt that's sort of nothing else in it? Which one do you think? Side A or side B? That's one of the questions I'm going to ask you today in your Google Forms about this activity. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it as Google Forms. I'm just going to do it as a question online. So answer that question for me. Do you think it's going to be the side with just dirt or side with other things, dirt and other things in it? What do you think? And what do you think that will tell us? If they like this side better, what do you think that tells us? If they like this side better, what does it tell us? All right, so looking at this question, today I want you to go back to this biosphere that we worked on a while ago, and I want you to add the worms into it. Update that picture with what you have for information. One way that I did that, now some of you found this, you printed it, you drew it, you had an easier time to do it, so that's awesome. I want you to, I also created for you a storyboard. So, Bailey, a storyboard here for you to. Okay, so what I did do is I created this in Storyboard. Now, Mrs. Kerrigan's class and my class have used Storyboard, and they're very familiar with it. But there are a few people that need, in Mr. Byron's class, that have not worked with it. So today, this basically allows you to put things in and make your biosphere if you want to start over and you want to add your worms. I will do a quick tutorial for you on Storyboard if you need it, but you will find in Google Classroom that I will have a Storyboard quick login. So it allows you to log in and create a login for yourself, Mr. Byron's class, if you have not done that. So that's how you will do it. So today, your assignment is this: to answer the question about the worms. How many do you think are going to be on the other side? Your question is also going to be, how do the decomposers in your ecosystem recycle nutrients? So knowing that the worms are decomposers and thinking about the fact of what they do and how they take the food in, what are in the soil and they turn it into poop? What do you think they're doing, and how does that help? And what would happen in our ecosystem if there was no a decomposer in there? So if we didn't have worms and didn't have other animals and plants that were decomposing things, breaking it down into small pieces, what would happen, do you think? So those are the questions I'm going to ask you today. In addition, I want you to work on your biosphere. I would really like for you to try it in Storyboard today. That's going to be where I'm looking for your homework. If for some reason you cannot do it, please just send me a link or send me a quick message through Google Classroom, and I will talk with you about the opportunity to do something different. If worse comes to worse and you have something, just keep going with what you already did and just make sure it gets to me. All right, that's it for today. It's a pretty easy assignment, but I think it's going to help us understand a little bit more about how worms affect our biosphere. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.